Welcome to the Wise Show with Goodwill Easter Seals and Humidop. My name is Adina Wingfield, your host for today. And on today's broadcast, we have our team host, Gail Daffler, with Goodwill Easter Seals. She is a prevention specialist. And we also have Michael Mann. And on Zoom, we have Tamara Cantrell, prevention specialist with Humidop, and Trent Smith, our other prevention specialist with Goodwill Easter Seals. We have a wonderful partnership going with Humidop and Goodwill Easter Seals, and you will hear more about our programs on today's podcast, scheduled at 4:30 p.m. on DATV.org. And this program, WISE, is offered to you by the New Jersey Network. We are all trained facilitators, and the program stands for Wellness Initiative for Senior Education. We have an exciting show planned for you today. So please, if you have a moment, take time to get some paper and a pen so you can take notes with us. But before we start our program, just want to let everybody know, just take a deep breath in and relax. This is a show that's all about conversations and about family. And so this is a judgment-free zone, first of all. Join in with us to have conversations to help families across the nation begin discussing health together more. Our lessons are interactive. So again, please take this moment to get some pen and paper for your notes. Now, today's lesson on our next slide is about understanding changes with aging. Now, we know we all need to do a lot more of that. We're all aging. Doesn't matter how young we are. And we are changing every day. So our lesson today, Understanding Changes with Aging, has some agendas and activities that we're going to take care of today. Our first one is Truth or Myth. And that's where we're going to get a better understanding of the facts and myths of aging. On this next slide, it says it's a matter of life and death, where we get greater familiarity with the top 10 causes of death, risk versus resiliency. That tells us all about the risks and some of the great things we can do to improve our health. Aging and depression. We know we all experience that sometimes, so we're going to talk about that today. And finally, we'll discuss our commitment to wellness. Now, in our lesson today, the purpose and expected outcomes are examining how the aging process helps us to live happier, healthier lives. It helps us to have better understanding of some of the facts and myths of aging. Greater familiarity with the top 10 causes of death in America. Enhanced knowledge, enhanced knowledge of what places individuals at risk for premature death and how to avoid these risks. It also gives us heightened awareness of the risk of depression among older adults. So as we go forward, we're going to play a quick game called Truth or Myth, and this game is all about some of the things we say about older adults that may or may not be true. So if you are not sure, you don't have to do anything, but as you participate at home, truth is a thumbs up, okay? Myth, thumbs down. That is not a fact, okay? So truth, you give a green light for the thumbs up, or myth. And we're going to pass it on to Mr. Mann.
Again, our first activity is going to be about truth or myth. And again, you can put thumbs up or thumb down, or you can either, if you have a sign like Gail has truth or myth on it, and she will show that sign. Before we start, there's so much conflicting information out there, it's difficult to ascertain what the truths are about growing older and what some of the myths we hear are. In this activity, we will learn to discern between the two. Our first question is going to be, and this is going to be a true or false question. Aging is a highly individual experience. People age at different rates. Is that question true or false? Give everybody a chance to think about it for a second. Okay, we have truth or myth here. Okay, I'm going to read the answer. It's actually true. Much to how you age depends on how you care for your body. For example, those who smoke usually look 5 to 10 years older than they are because of the wrinkles that form as a result. While people who exercise are at a lower risk for heart disease, lifestyle choices contribute to the rate at which the body ages. So we know lifestyle, smoking, and things like that can contribute. So that was actually true. Our second question. Increasing age brings about a decline in sexual desire and interest. Is that true or false? Again, I give everybody a few seconds to think about it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That is actually false. A comprehensive national survey on sexual attitudes, behaviors, and problems among older adults in the U.S. found that most people ages 57 to 85 think of sexuality as an important part of their life, and that the frequency of sexual activity for those who are active declines only slightly from the ages of 50 to the early 70s. Next question. The dementia is a normal part of aging. Is that true or false? Dementia is a normal part of aging. What do y'all think? What do y'all think?
Okay, somebody
I have
said
myth
change
on
it.
there.
Wait, let's
Okay.
go. Let's go.
Again,
with
that's
the
false.
audience.
Oh.
Although dementia
Good job.
mainly affects older people, it is not a normal part of aging and should be seen as a modifiable health condition that should be followed like any other medical condition. Dementia is a syndrome, usually of a chronic or progressive nature, in which there is deterioration in cognitive function beyond that which may be expected from normal aging. It affects memory, thinking, orientation, comprehension, calculation, learning capability, language, and judgment. So again, that's false. Dementia is not necessarily a normal part of aging. Number 4, genetics, nutrition, stress, exercise, healthcare, and lifestyles all influence the aging process. Is that true or false? Okay, our panel is saying true. That is actually true. While the role of genetics in aging is important, it has been tremendously overstated. Genes are about 35% of the story. Individual makes choices that can play an important role in how successful each one of us age. Diet, exercise, and even medications can delay the process or eliminate the emergence of some diseases.
So when we think about truth or myth, there's a whole lot of things that come to mind about the dangers of assuming things. That upsets people, doesn't it, sometimes? So sometimes we want to just make sure that we think about some of the things we say before we do. I know a lot of you out there watching would agree that, wow, because the sexual activity one is the one that really shocks a lot of people. But hey, it's very important to know the changes with aging. But I'll carry it back to you.
Next slide, please. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. True or false? That is actually false, and I know we hear that statement all the time. People talking about you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Normal aging is not linked to a loss of intelligence. It's a myth to think that after a certain age you can't learn new skills, try new activities, or make fresh lifestyle changes. The truth is that the human brain never stops changing. So older adults are just as capable as younger people in learning new things and adapting to new ideas. So again, that is false. For example, I can remember growing up, when I was growing up, they didn't have computers and all this stuff. Matter of fact, we had a phone that dialed. We had something called a party line for any of the older people out there listening in. So I had to learn how to work a computer for my job, right? Had to learn how to do Zoom. I'm still taking classes, so we can certainly continue to learn new things as we get older. Anybody else on the panel have anything to say? Okay.
Oh yes, I'm continuing to learn, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Like when I think about this class today, we're all moving forward, and I really have a lot of respect for everybody who's tuned in, whether they're watching on DATV, whether they're watching on Zoom, on Facebook Live. People are learning how to connect with each other in a new way. So welcome everybody, and we're so glad that you're able to watch today.
That is so true. Technology, didn't we say we're going to learn whether we want to or not? We're going
Yeah.
to learn this technology thing, and there's so many different ways of understanding it, and so it's good to continue to learn as we age.
Right. Next question, number 6. Most of the aged live in a long stay institutions such as nursing homes, mental hospitals, and home for the aged. So do you think most people stay in nursing homes, mental hospitals, and home for the aged? Is that true or false? That's actually a myth. That's actually false. Only 1% of people aged 65 to 74 and 20% of people aged 85 and older live in nursing homes or in long-term facilities. 25% of people admitted stay for 3 months or less and are often admitted to rehabilitation or for the end-of-life care. About half of the residents spend at least 1 year in a nursing home. Any other thing on that? Okay, next question. Physical strength tends to decline with age. True or false?
I'm going to say true. I'm going to say true.
Okay, that's actually true. Beginning at age 30, most of us lose about 1% or a third of a pound of muscle every year. As the body starts tearing down old muscle at a faster rate than it builds new tissue. The loss of muscle, which burns more calories than fat, slows the body's resting metabolic rate, causing us to pack on fat pounds through the years. However, much older adults can find a form of exercise that works for them, whether it's a simple exercises that can be done from a chair, aerobic classes, walking, or weight training. Consider all options and what might work best for you. I know for me, I attend a class at the YMCA, and it's a senior class, and we do exercise. We start off in chairs. Some of them are standing up. We use weights, balls, stretching, a cord, to help keep our tone or help our tone last longer.
I do a lot of walking. I walk my dogs. I'm able to get out to see my neighbors that way, so there's that connection. And when I can't get out, because right now there's all this snow, so we're not able to get out. I have little dogs, so that's something where I get online and I use YouTube videos to stay active.
That is such a good point. And now I recently joined the gym, and sometimes our body just hurts, right? And so they, at Planet Fitness, I'll give a quick plug there, but they have the ability where there's a bed that you can get massaged. So sometimes just getting our body healed, then we can start working out is another way. So join the gym. They have social distance there, so make sure they have all the things set to keep you safe. But they do.
That's correct. Last question. Being socially active is good for your health. Is that true or false?
Most of the time, Michael, most of the time.
Okay, again, that's true. We know the pandemic is going on right now, but there are many things you can do to help yourself age well. Physical activity, exercise, and making healthy food choices are the cornerstones for most suggestions about healthy aging.
That's right.
But emerging research also indicates the possibility that aging in social and productive activities that you enjoy. So doing social activities that you enjoy, like taking an art class or volunteering in your community or going to your place of worship. It may help you maintain your well-being. A number of early studies found that people who are involved in hobbies and other social and leisure pursuits may have a lower risk for aging, and then to include the health problems and to include dementia.
Absolutely. There's just so many things we can do to improve our health associated with aging. So.
Right. I'm going to ask a couple of reflection questions, then I'm going to pass it on to Gail for the next module. Did the fact that any of these statements were myths and truths surprise you? And if so, which ones and why? And did anything surprise any one of you?
I think I'm always surprised because about how we lose the amount of muscle that we lose through the years. Because there's so many people that are active and that they are healthy, and as we are getting older, more people are really tending to their health, and you can see that with our population, that people are using their information to become healthier. And Michael, I mean, all the things that you're active in and just how healthy you are, like that is something that we see every day.
I wasn't going to tell everybody I was 74.
No way.
Well, that's
No
good.
way.
And so, last reflection question before we pass on. What can we do or go out to dispel some of these myths? Are there some things that we can do to dispel some of the myths that we have about aging?
I have one. I think we could just listen more.
Okay.
You know, I could just sit and have a conversation with you, and you tell me all the things you're working on, and that just breaks them all down. It breaks all the walls down.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it on to Gail for the next module.
Thank you, Michael. Today we're going to look at it's a matter of life and death. And we just talked with Michael about the truths and myths about aging. As we know, death is part of the circle of life. And can we delay death and slow the aging process down? It's a great question. In this activity, we're going to examine the causes of death and determine the extent of control we have to extending our own lives. So we're going to look at our next slide here, and we're going to see in 2020, our public health, they have determined how, the causes of death for people 55 and above. So when we look at our slide here, okay, so actually this is actually the list here. The top cause of death for people 55 and above here in Montgomery County is heart disease. And so unfortunately we have had 1,350 people passed away in 2020 from heart disease. I want to think about our protective factors though, because that is huge. When we think about what can we do to be safer and healthier around our hearts, what are some things here on our panel that we can think of that you can do to be safer with our hearts?
I'd say keep a positive mindset. It is very important to help your mind stay free of cluttered thinking. And so just positive thinking is what I'll say.
Right, I'll say exercising, getting the right amount of sleep.
Those are great. And the audience, do you have anything you want to say? Okay. All right. Well, we'll look at a few other factors here. First is blood pressure, making sure that we monitor that, get that checked, regularly if you have high blood pressure. Also our cholesterol as well. Going to our doctors regularly, getting all those monitored, or getting something so that we live in our own home. Living at a healthy weight, like looking at what we can do to be at a better weight. And maybe that's eating vegetables more, eating fruits more, but looking at that and working with our medical team to make sure that we're at the optimum weight for ourselves. And include, like Michael said, being more active is huge for our heart health, whether that's walking, it could be dancing, it could be just doing chair exercises, it could be playing with the grandkids, so whatever it is that you're able to do to be active, whether it's in the community or in your family, those are great choices. Also, limiting the amount of alcohol. So something that we're going to talk about in one of our later segments is what is a safe amount of alcohol, and looking at making better choices around that. And also learning to manage our stress. Thank you, Adina. That is huge. Our second cause of death for Montgomery County in 2020 was cancer. And so we had 1,109 people pass away from cancer in 2020. When we think about cancer, what are some of the protective factors that we could put into our lives around cancer?
Oh, I have a good one. I think blocking the sun, the UV rays to the skin is very important. So making sure we wear sunscreen, no matter what pigment of skin you have. Everyone, please wear your sunscreen.
Thank you.
Right, I would say another one is cancer. I know my father passed at 60 years old, and he was a chain smoker, and he had got cancer of the lungs, and by the time he finally discovered it, the doctor said it was way too late. So I would say tobacco is certainly a high risk for cancer. People who smoke or nicotine.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's almost the same as our heart disease. So looking at all those factors that we already discussed, putting those two in, and as well, and the other two that I want to talk about is to make sure that we get our vaccinations and keeping them up to date. That is another way we can protect ourselves from cancer. The other is to go in and get tested through our doctor, making sure that we follow through if we're 50 and above on the specific tests that our physicians want us to take. And the last one I wanted to look at was on our first page it said NA at the bottom, but it was COVID-19. COVID-19 for 55 and above here in Montgomery County, there were 431 people pass away in Montgomery County. So when we look at, say, COVID, making sure that, we sanitize our hands, we wash our hands regularly, we wear our mask in public, we keep 6 feet away from each other. And also if we're thinking about getting the vaccination, look to having a great conversation with our physicians about that. Is this a good choice for me? Having that conversation with them, looking at what medications you currently take, looking at what current medical conditions that you have, and seeing if that's something that would be healthy for you to take. So that's one thing I really encourage everybody to have that conversation with your medical team if you're currently thinking about that, because we want to make sure that you're as safe as possible. Especially around COVID, we want to look at what information that we do need. So our public health has a great website with information to keep us safe. Going there as well and educating ourselves is a huge thing that we can do too. If we can go to the next slide, please. Actually, in 2 slides here. So actually, on this number 5 is accidents for Montgomery County. Number 6 is Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and then we have our chronic kidney disease, and then influenza, pneumonia rounds that out. If we can go to the next slide, that would be fantastic. Okay, so on this slide, it's a really small type here, so I will read this to you. So it says, while homicides and national tragedies get the most media attention, the top causes of death are heart disease and cancer. And that's been in the nation as well as in Montgomery County. Not surprisingly, a healthy lifestyle could impact the causes of death of over 1 million people a year. So that's something that's very preventable. So many of the top causes of death are a result of lifestyle choices and behaviors, such as smoking, poor diet, physical inactivity, that can contribute to the nation's leading killers. So most of the common behaviors that lead to death over the United States are smoking, poor diet and inactivity, alcohol consumption, influenza or pneumonia, toxic agents, motor vehicle accidents, firearms, and illicit use of drugs. So this is quite a list right here. Just, looking at this and seeing what we can do to be safer and healthier is a great step. By taking a look at this list here, can you think of a lifestyle choice and behavior that you engage in that could be having a negative impact on your health? Are there one or two choices that you can make to be healthier? So I want you to think about that. What are some choices that you could do to be healthier throughout the day and in your life? So are there any choices that you would make?
I know I have one. One of mine is diet. Because I eat out most of the time. Most meals I eat out. And plus, I've never gotten over, I grew up in a household where my mother always had desserts and sweets. And so I know I've tried several times, I'm not gonna buy any more cupcakes. I'm not gonna buy any more cake when I go to the store. And then seem to always still have a problem with that. So I'm trying to work on now on my diet, eating better, picking out better qualities of food, eating more vegetables and fruit.
And mine would be water. I love water, making sure that I consume lots and lots of that every day. And I believe it's half your body weight in ounces, half your body weight in ounces per day to engage in just a healthier flow for your body. So.
And mine is being more physically active. And a lot of that is just walking, lifting weights at home, small weights, but just trying to build more activity into my daily life. As well as what Michael said, is making those choices around food, putting more vegetables and more fruits into my diet. Because do I like the candy? Do I like the M&Ms, Michael? Yes, I do. I love the M&Ms.
Right.
I love to drink Coca-Cola, so making sure I drink more water. So that is something that is a huge step for me to take. Okay, so thank you so much. And our next segment, Miss Adina is going to lead that.
Oh my goodness. We are on risk versus resiliency at this point. And there's so many things that cause risk. But as we've been discussing, there are lifestyles and behaviors that put us at risk for illness and premature death. And these are lifestyles and behaviors there are also lifestyles and behaviors that promote healthier living. So a couple of these risk factors, there's one that starts here. I see that we have cigarette smoking up. And it is a very adverse health effect to over 443,000 people have passed away, or that's nearly 1 of every 5 deaths each year in the United States is caused by cigarette smoking. So again, this is a judgment-free zone. I'm sure there's some smokers here and maybe been doing it for a long time, but we want to talk about that. That nicotine is highly addictive. We know that addiction is a serious thing, and it is very hard to break habits, but we are encouraging everyone to abstain from smoking and work on a plan to come out of that for better health. Okay, and so when we look at cigarette smoking, can you help think about ways to help with the anxiety that maybe people use smoking for? What can we do instead?
Well, I know that I smoked for about 25 years,
Okay.
and I had developed a hacking cough, and so my doctor kept telling me, you need to quit smoking. So I tried several times to quit smoking, and I couldn't stop, or I didn't stop. But what happened was I had to stop drinking coffee because coffee and cigarettes sort of went together for me. And when I was drinking alcohol years and years ago, those things sort of went together.
Yeah.
So I had to stop both of those things at the same time. And then, fortunately, after I quit smoking, I would say 6-7 months later, I don't have that hacking cough anymore.
Yeah.
And that's been 17 years now. So, and I'm not trying to judge anybody else who smokes, but I would just say that anybody that does smoke, I would just recommend that they don't chain smoke, because nicotine is certainly addictive and can cause a lot of health problems.
Right. And so there's programs out there if you need help. We'll tell more about those programs on our podcast later, but there's so many ways to do smoke cessation and stop those habits and adopt some new ones. And so as we go on, when we think about alcohol use, same thing. We're thinking about ways of coping. Now, I know a lot of people may have started with 1 drink. Maybe you were drinking socially, and now the pandemic brought on 2 drinks. 3 drinks, and you're going, let me think about this. Is this excessive alcohol consumption? Is this leading, because it is a third leading cause of preventable disease, okay? It can cause so many problems in our body, cirrhosis of the liver, bad mood, lack of sleep, so many things. And I always defer to Gail about this withdrawal symptoms that it causes. Could you tell us more about the withdrawal that alcohol creates when it becomes a real problem?
Absolutely. It is something where the withdrawal, if somebody is truly addicted to alcohol, unfortunately, it could kill them if they don't get medical attention. So that's something that we want to make sure that people, are contacting their medical team, if they're choosing to get help and to stop drinking. That is a huge step. Because they could have delirious tremors. They could be going through a lot of medical withdrawals. it could affect a lot of their organs. So we want to make sure that they're safe as possible.
All right, and depression is something that is also associated deeply with the alcoholism. We're going to go into that a little bit later, but that is such a major point. We're all going through the pandemic and the isolation of things. So let's move on to those factors here. We talked about obesity earlier and lack of physical activity. But let's go to some of the psychological factors. Look at this: stress, depression, isolation, low frustration tolerance, and difficulty accepting change may affect our hormones, immune function. Listen clearly: immune function, cholesterol level, and other biochemical functions. So the mind is very powerful. That's where we start all of our body functions, and it does cause illness when it's not flowing well, if we're not thinking well. So certain personality characteristics may predispose some to select life-shortening behavior patterns, such as smoking or heavy drinking. We all may have grown up with a parent or someone who did that and followed the steps. Children do what they see, and it's a predisposition at times, and not always, but those are things that occur. So what are some things that, when we think about the psychological part?
Well, I know, I was just thinking when you said that, my parents were born in Mississippi, and when I used to go visit, they lived like on a farm, and they used to make something called moonshine. So when my relatives moved to Dayton, we moved here first, and as families do, a lot of families that came from the South, one person would move up and then other people would come stay with them until they found a job and a place to stay. So as that happened in our family, my cousins, when they came up, they were already drinking moonshine, and so that was a part of their culture. So they just thought it was okay to drink. You know, it was okay to drink in the morning, drink in the evening, and so they never thought about how much they were drinking, even when we discussed that with them. And I had a few cousins that passed away because of cirrhosis of the liver and things like that because of drinking. And I don't believe any of them ever thought they had a problem. Then when they did realize they had a problem, it was too late.
It was too late. See, there's so many things about that and the influence of others. But we just want to think about which of these risk factors do you think are the easiest to avoid? What do you think about that? What do you think would be easiest to avoid out of alcohol or physical inactivity, smoking? What would be the easiest? And what's the most difficult to counter? Go ahead.
Well, I think it's probably a very individual actually choice there, decision for that. It would probably if people look at their lives and to see where they're challenged at, that and what's something that they could do. For me personally, the easiest one to overcome would be physical inactivity. You know, making sure that we move as much as we can. And it doesn't have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be, something that, I think I look at those Shaun T videos, where he's, moving like doing these kicks in the air. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be just very simple movement, dance moves, play basketball, getting out and playing croquet maybe, but different things that people can do to be active. I think that's the easiest for me. But I think we just need to assess that for ourselves.
And Gail was just talking about staying active and positive because physical activity is so important. You see our seniors here sitting in a chair, but they have their legs up. We can move. Whatever body part we can move, let's roll our neck. We can do that together even now. Ooh, stretching. Oh, that's the best. But stretching is an exercise in itself. So there are low impact exercises that still help us to thrive and get that blood moving. Okay.
Can I say one thing about one thing? I think one of the most difficult ones is nicotine. Nicotine was very difficult for me. And because we know nicotine is addictive.
Yes.
And so it became so much, it started becoming a habit to me like it was with my dad that, when I got up, I grabbed a cigarette, during the day I smoked, at night before I went to bed. And I didn't understand, I thought I had a choice. And then when I got help, and then in some areas when you need help, we can reach out to other agencies, like you said, we'll talk about later. I had to reach out to some people to help me with that and some other agencies. But some things are very difficult to stop on our own.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Let's see the next slide, please. So in all of the topics today, we talked about obesity, physical inactivity, smoking cessation, isolation, and psychological factors. We are doing so much to help improve our health, and we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break here for just a moment and look at some of the reflections of this topic, okay? We want to reflect on risk versus resiliency. There are so many different things that we can do to improve our health. And so as we come to a close here, we are looking forward to thinking about our health, right? Are we more aware? How do you feel about your commitment to wellness?
I think I'm doing good. I've joined a couple of programs now. I'm in a dancing program. I'm also in an exercise program. And doing pretty good. Matter of fact, I made a New Year's resolution. I went out and got some weights. So some days I'm doing good with that, but I'm trying to continue to do better. And some days I get up in the morning and I just walk past the weights and we speak to each other, and I try to get it when I come back in that afternoon. But I'm doing better, and I know that's something that I need to continue to do.
Absolutely. We have learned so much today, and we just encourage everyone to continue to be well and to listen. And hopefully you can play this back sometime. I know this will air again sometime soon, but I just want you all to know that we thank you for listening to our show today, for watching and tuning in. And we hope that we see you again at 4:30 for our podcast on Facebook Live. Thank you so much.